last week, somebody had asked about Gandhabri and how she responded to the game of dice and to Draupadi and to the whole scenario. So remember that in between bit after they were given back everything, Yudhishthira and the Pandavas leave with Draupadi, and then they get called back for that last game of dice. So in that interim, Gandhabri tells Duryodhana, what you're doing is wrong. This is incorrect way to win wealth. It's completely adharmic, and you will not be able to benefit from what you are doing. Do not call him back. Stop here. At least what you've done is wrong, but at least don't continue to do wrong. And at that point, because Vidur had mentioned also that when Duryodhana was born, there was evil omens, she reiterates it. And she says, at that time, Vidur advised us to kill you, and we should have listened. Now, this is for a mother to say is huge. You know? And then she goes on to praise Yudhishthira and says he's noble, he's virtuous, he deserves the kingdom, and to do this to him is even, to do what you did is unjust, but to do it to somebody as noble as Yudhishthira makes it even worse. And so at that point in time, you see how Gandharva is so clear and so in her thinking, clear in her thinking, and so strong to be able to say this to her own son. Like, it's not that she hated him. Of course, as a mother, she loves her son. And, you see throughout the story of the Mahabharata where every now and then, she also gives in to that, oh, but he's my son. But more often than not, she's clear in her thinking. And that's why Gurudev would describe her as the intellect and the Thrashtra as the mind, because the Thrashtra just really couldn't. He could see it, but he wasn't able to listen. And so then the last thing that Gandharva says to Duryodhana, and she's saying this straight to Duryodhana, she's not saying it to anyone else. She says to Duryodhana, don't go to your father because he is too weak and he does not do what is right. Listen to me. So even this, she tells him, right? So because she knows the problem. The problem is Duryodhana is filled with this greed and with this jealousy. And then he goes to the Thrashtra. The Thrashtra knows better, but he's not able to say no to Duryodhana. But then Duryodhana says, well, it's already done. And do you think Bhima and Arjuna will ever forgive us? And so they'll wage a war on us now. So better we delay the war, which is pretty much what happens. They call them back for the game of red dice. They lose. And because Yudhishthira keeps his word, the war is just basically delayed 14 years. So it's what Duryodhana wanted. Duryodhana wanted the delay of the inevitable. So I guess they could enjoy for that period of time. It's not what Yudhishthira wanted, but Yudhishthira had surrendered to what he considered to be faith. This is the way it is. This is the way it has to be. And so that's an interesting take. And so I mentioned this before also, that in the Mahabharata, there's this complete sense of fatalism, that it's decided and it's done, and you can do whatever you want. You're not going to be able to change it. How will you know unless you try? Really, how will you know unless you try? So for us, we have to try. Even if it is faith, even if we do have to go through it, we have to try to be able to change whatever we can change, and definitely to change ourselves. Then there's so much in satsang thing goes on. So anyways, Pandavas have left. They already in exile, because I don't want to backtrack too much. People have come and spoken to Duryodhana. So Narad Muniji comes, I think about 5 other rishis who may not be quite as well known to general public come, and all of them are saying, Duryodhana, what you've done is wrong. Call him back, make amends. Duryodhana is like Dhritarashtra feels bad. I'm not saying you're a better person if you feel bad. I'm just saying there's a level of conscience there. But you still did the action, so it's as good as what doesn't matter. But Duryodhana doesn't feel any remorse. Now, in terms of our sense of understanding of dharma and consequences of action, and even our sense of compassion and love and selflessness in our heart, this says a lot. That there's zero remorse in what he's done, like zero. And so every time one of these saints and sages come and tell him, you shouldn't have done that, it's almost like, literally, it's like our teenage kids rolling their eyes and like, here we go again, I have to listen to this long, boring lecture. And every now and then he would become so cheeky, like to show them that he doesn't care what he's saying. He'd take his hand and he'd slap his thigh to mimic the action that he did during the game of dice in front of these great saints and sages. So it's that total disregard for people trying to help you. Now, you know, our teenagers do it. Our teenagers roll their eyes at us, and they tell us we old fashioned, or they tell us we, you know, uncool, or they tell us we hypocrites. Their favorite thing to say, because they're very idealistic at that age. And so anything where we are less than living up to the ideal, they actually highly disappointed in us. So their disappointment in us not living up to the ideals they have is what makes them so, like that look on their face is actually anger and disappointment, that why aren't you living up to the ideals? And so they, you know, they have attitude and they have, but it's because they disappointed that ideals can't be lived up to. And even with themselves, they want to live up to ideals. They're so idealistic, huh? But they're not always able to. So I remember once when this kid was fairly, 13 something, and I was eating Pringles. And I wasn't aware that Pringle uses palm oil, and apparently there's this whole thing behind palm oil, and I'm not even sure exactly what it is now that was against palm oil. And so they were like, how could you? I was like, how could I eat potato chips? They're like, no, you're eating Pringles and it has palm oil. And I'm like, but okay, what's so bad about palm oil? Like, is it not healthy? And so then something to do with child labor and economies and something. And I was like, okay. Okay, so we don't support companies that do unethical things. I'm with you. We will not eat Pringles anymore. And then I said, which other companies use palm oils and which other products have palm oils? And she kind of looked at me. I said, wait a minute, you don't know? Only you just banned one company? Isn't it palm oil that's the problem? And she's looking at me. So even, they're not fully mature yet, right? They want to do the right thing. They may not even totally understand how to do the right thing. And so they're disappointed in us for not being able to do it. They're disappointed in themselves for not being able to do it. And so they have that look on their face that, you know, you so whatever look on their face that teenagers have. But that's not Duryodhana. Duryodhana is what? In his 30s? No teenage who is disappointed in life or disillusioned or trying to figure out himself. This is really disregard for anyone who wishes me well or wants me to improve. It's this stubbornness of, I want to remain this way. And don't tell me otherwise. And so in the Gita, when we see, Bhagavan explains that when tamas clouds our thinking, we don't even realize how we can be so veiled, right? How the delusion can be so strong. And so 3 examples are given. When we're in the frame of sattva, and when our mind is in sattva, some thoughts will come, jealousies, anger, just disappointment, disillusionment, insecurities. All those thoughts do come in every single person's mind. All those thoughts come. But when our mind is sattvic, it's like smoke and you can blow it off and you can move and dispel all those kind of thoughts, right? And so if you think of Yudhishthira's mind, did he get addicted into the game of dice? Yeah. When he lost himself, when he lost his brothers, when he lost Draupadi, definitely gambling had taken over his senses and he wasn't thinking straight. But did he go to the game of dice addicted to gambling? No. When he was called back for that last round, did he go because he couldn't help himself? No. The reasons he went was not because of tamas. The reasons he went was because of he's resigning to faith, his understanding of dharma. So do thoughts come in? Yes. He's able to blow them away, move them away. Sattvic mind, right? Not every thought we think is going to be conducive. And so when an unconducive thought comes, move. And then Rajas is described as a mirror that has dust built on it. So you have to a little bit put in effort to clean your mind. So jealousy comes in and it kind of gets cozy. And then you're like, no, I'm not going to give in to this. In fact, I'm going to make sure I think of all the good things about this person and praise them. And then what I'm lacking in myself, I'm going to try and improve and not give in to just feeling like they have it and I don't. And I'm no victim. I have plenty other things. And so I have to really talk myself out of it. And so for today, then I'm all psyched and I'm all good. And then next morning I'll wake up and jealousy is there again. And I'll think, and so I have to start the whole thing again. I have lots of things that I'm good. I don't have to feel like a victim. She's got her things. She's walked her journey. Everyone has their fair shares of sorrow. Everyone has their fair shares of joy. This is her moment in the limelight. I'll get my moment in the limelight. I can do this. I can be loving. I can be gracious. I can be, and so effort, right? Maybe maybe when I see her and effort to smile, maybe the smile also doesn't come out so nice because effort is being put in to smile at them, but put in the effort anyway. Until the smile comes out quite naturally, yeah, and genuinely. So Rajas is when the thoughts are there and we actually have to little bit battle with them. Laziness comes in and then you're telling yourself, get up. Don't just sit here. Get up. Go and finish your steps. Go and finish this piece of homework. Have this conversation with this person. I'll do this every now and then. Whether it's too much sattva or too much tamas varies, but I won't work. And then I'll say, I have to work. So then I'll send out so many emails and so many WhatsApps. Then they all reply. Then I'm like, why did I want to work again? Now I have to reply their replies. But that's what you have to do. You have to snap yourself out of it in that moment, do the work, and then now it's momentum. Now you keep going. No more tamas. But when tamas is very solid, then it's Duryodhana. And this is what we need to understand when we talk about the Mahabharata war. Why was Duryodhana adharma? Because that's refusing to change. Yeah. So many wise people guiding him, just refusing to change. That, and literally that's what tamas is. Don't tell me what to do. That's that feeling in us. That's tamas. That, and Duryodhana had so many saints go to him and advise him. Most of us don't even meet that many saints in our lives. Like he had 5 in a span of a week come and visit him and tell him, Duryodhana, what you're doing is wrong. How, how blessed to have somebody come to you who's so knowledgeable, who's wanting to guide you. And then this, no, don't tell me what to do. And then on top of it, to insult the saint by doing this action of hitting his thigh on his, with his hand, the way he did when he was telling Draupadi to come and sit there. And the story had gone around, so everybody knows that it's an insult. Everybody knows he's being, and then he would do again. Then the description of him really sounds like our teenagers. You know, when you sit with your back and your legs stretched out, and you're like, yeah, what? So you're not like somebody of who's you sit up straight in front of your boss, in front of somebody who's important in some figure. But he had this very unreceptive. When our mind is unreceptive to another point of view, when our mind is unreceptive to knowledge, guidance, blessings, then that tamas is so strong that we're going to continue to do what is harmful for me and for other people. So not only does Duryodhana completely discard all good advice given to him, he calls Karna and Shakuni and Shashan and he says, you know, we got everything we wanted in the game of dice, but the Pandavas are still alive. This won't do. So we should go into the forest and kill them. Karna tells Duryodhana at this point, you're absolutely right. How can that be right? From his point of view, it's like, let's ensure I never have to deal with them ever again. So let's kill them. Yeah. But from no angle can this be dharma. From absolutely no angle can this be justified in any which way. Dushashan agreeing with Duryodhana is totally understandable. Like I said, he's like total chamcho. Shakuni agreeing as well. We know he has his ulterior motives. Karna agreeing is very disappointing. So they actually leave to go to kill the Pandavas. Vedavyasa, who knows, like this is, like how can Duryodhana not know, listen to Vedavyasa? Vedavyasa comes and stands in front of Duryodhana while they are exiting Hastinapur and says, you are en route to go and kill the Pandavas, I will not allow it. Like this person knows what you're thinking, knows where you are, knows how to find you. Doesn't that tell you he's already quite an amazing person? Like he's sitting somewhere in the forest and he knew what you were thinking. He could be in the spot where you are and he can stop you. Like already this tells you this is like quite an impressive person. Shouldn't we listen when somebody's so impressive and knows our thoughts from a distant place and is able to come in even there? Yeah. So literally where the Vyasa, like as though it was Theseus, takes him back to the palace and tells Dhritarashtra, they were on their way to kill the Pandavas. What's wrong with you? They're not listening. They just, Duryodhana is not listening, Dhritarashtra is not listening. At this point, Gandhavri is like, how much to say? I've already told you all, this is ridiculous. Okay, so now we will leave the Pandavas here. Actually, there is an incident that happens where they don't go to, when does it? I think it happens later. I think I have to wait before I tell you all that story. Okay, we'll do what happens now. So did I say Vedavyas? Narad Muni goes to visit the Pandavas. Okay, so let's leave Duryodhana to his tamas. Let's go to Pandavas. It was either Narad Muni or Vedavyasa, one of them. Go to the Pandavas and say, the war will be fought, and Arjuna has to do tapas. So I don't know if y'all remember this, but there was that huge fire that Krishna and Arjuna helped the fire eat the forest up. And at that point, Arjuna and Krishna fought against Indra. And at the end of that, because they were able to beat Indra, and Indra is Arjuna's father, he says, ask for a boon. Arjuna asked, give me your weapon, your divine astra. And Indra said, I'll give it to you, but only once you have won Shiva's Pashupati astra. So every one of the devatas have this phenomenal, it's called astra, which means weapon. Nobody's been actually able to draw it because these astras are mantras. And so you say it, and then there's mass destruction. That's really what the astra is. And it's been equated to an atomic bomb, because that's the kind of level of destruction it causes. But these astras and how you use it can be very concentrated. So you can kill one person, or you can kill hundreds and thousands of persons. And so basically, the way these astras are used, however, to the extent your mind is strong, to that extent, the weapon is strong. Yeah. So you can have the mantra, but it won't be effective unless your mind is strong. So what I'm trying to make you understand here is, normal weapon, you hold the bow, you hold the arrow, you shoot. These astras, the bow is your mind. The arrow is the mantra. So how strong is it going to be? However strong your mind is. Therefore, Arjuna has to go and do tapas. What's tapas? Efforts made for us to increase the strength of our mind. Yeah, basically only the strength, but ideally to increase the purity of our mind as well. Although not everyone who does tapas increases purity of mind, but you do increase strength of mind. So for Arjuna to wield all these divine weapons, his mind has to be incredibly strong. And so go do tapas. Arjuna's mind is already very, very strong. Remember game of dice? He didn't talk. He controlled his anger. He controlled Bhim's anger. Already his mind is so strong. Not strong enough. Where does that leave you and I, guys? Arjuna's mind already very pure. You thinking pure? He's got quite a few wives. Yeah. Already very pure. How do we know Arjuna's mind is pure? He never doubts Yudhishthira. You have to have a pure mind not to doubt Yudhishthira. Even when we hear everyday conversations about Mahabharata, so many people will make comments that Yudhishthira, this, and so easy not to understand Yudhishthira's purity, Yudhishthira's resolve to Dharma, Yudhishthira's and why would we say that with such confidence? Because Krishna gives Yudhishthira that praise. And Krishna would recognize. So if Krishna is praising Yudhishthira, then he's definitely praiseworthy. For Krishna to accept Yudhishthira's decision means it's the right decision. Because remember, when Balram makes decisions, Krishna vetoes it. Balram's Krishna's older brother. Even there's times when Arjuna has made decisions, Krishna vetoes. You'll see throughout the Mahabharata war, Arjuna dilly-dallies here and Krishna screams, like, what are you doing? If you're not going to do the right thing, I'll do it for you. calls him all sorts of names, actually, also. So Krishna is not just accepting anyone's decision. Even saints and sages makes decision, Krishna vetoes. Narad Muni has done things, Krishna's vetoed. So, but he didn't veto Yudhishthira. He honored Yudhishthira. He serves Yudhishthira's cause on several occasions. So, to understand somebody's purity, you have to have a certain level of purity yourself. So for Arjuna to understand Yudhishthira's purity, that to little bit he has that sense of purity in his own heart. Also, when he needs to abstain, like now when he goes for tapas, he can abstain very easily. And so even though Arjuna is a prince and even though he can indulge, he definitely shows the quality of Vairagya. What's the quality of Vairagya? The moment I need to let it go, I let it go. Arjuna definitely shows that quality. When he had to let go of the palace, let it go. Let go of his pride and become a servant, let it go. That's huge, huh? Huge. I'm a servant now, and to just accept that from being a prince to a servant in 1 second, that change, to be able to accept it, really, really. Vairagya. Of course, he was burning with anger, not that he wasn't, but he accepted it. So is he a complete Vairagi? No. But does he have the quality? Yes. Right. When he has to abstain from any particular pleasure, be it sexual, be it food, be it sleeping on a soft bed, he is able to abstain. So he is able to not do when he can't, and when he can, he does. That's shows a great sense of, to some extent, Vairagya. And in terms of qualities of being able to grow spiritually, Vairagya is a very important one. Okay. So Arjuna's tapas. Arjuna has to leave where they are living in the forest to go off and do tapas. Because when you're staying with your 4 brothers and your wife, you can't really do tapas. So instruction was clear. Either Narad Muni or Veda Vyasa, I can't remember. Go to the Himalayas. Do tapas. Arjuna's excited. Arjuna's actually excited. So that 1 year when Arjuna went wandering around, I don't know if y'all remember, he goes to the Himalayas. And when he sees the Himalayas and when he describes the Himalayas, there's this sense of awe and reverence. And so go to Himalayas statement excites Arjuna. You know, when I first saw the Himalayas, like just physically, it's wow. And really, really, there's something there. So whatever it is that it awakens in us to be able to have that sense of reverence, that memory was sparked in Arjuna. And so there was this, yes, go to Himalayas. Again, you see here, qualities of Arjuna. There's Shraddha, and there's devotion. Like there's that wanting to improve, like the complete opposite of Duryodhana. Like somebody said, go Himalayas, stands up, puts on his shoes, let's go. Somebody tells Duryodhana, he stretches his eyeglass, he leans back, he looks at them like, you're so annoying for talking to me. Like, look at the difference in the reactions, even the physical difference in their reactions to when advice is being given to them. And at this point, Yudhishthira says, no, I can't let Arjuna go. So there's this incredible sweetness between the relationships of the brothers. So last week I spoke about how Draupadi completely broke down and she wept and Krishna comforted her. Because what an incredibly traumatic experience she went through. And to Krishna, she did the whole rant. She complained about every husband, about husbands in general, about everything. Like, and all of us think, good for Draupadi. Good that she, she held it in, she was so dignified, and then she got to have her little, because at some point it needs to come out, right? And if it comes out to Krishna, so nice, then you're cleansed. If it all comes out to Krishna, and he so lovingly held her and he so lovingly comforted her. And even though a lot of it was Yudhishthira's fault, what we may forget is he's also gone through trauma. Yes, it's very evident that Draupadi has gone through trauma, but all 5 of them went through trauma. Because Yudhishthira is so steadfast in Dharma, and he honored the Trashtra, honored the elders, honored, and was so completely betrayed. Yeah. Was used, he was manipulated, he was sacrificed, he was insulted, he was taken advantage of. And then to watch his own brothers go through hell, to watch his wife go through hell, to leave the home, to leave his mother. Like, these are all things that would constitute trauma in Yudhishthira's heart. They get to the forest, the saints and sages are there, he's still holding it together. Draupadi has her breakdown because she's entitled to. He has to hold it together. He deserves every word she says because it was his actions. He has to deal with the consequences. Bhim is yelling, screaming. He has to deal with it. He takes it. It was his actions. This is the consequence. When it's still to him, let Arjuna go. Finally, Yudhishthira says, no, I need Arjuna here. He's the only one who supports me. He didn't even have a breakdown the same way Draupadi did. He just needed that little bit comfort of Arjuna supporting him. And so Arjuna's tapas gets delayed by 2-3 months. So that he could just be there to support Yudhishthira. And so here too, you see, Arjuna is so excited to go. Himalayas, do tapas, get divine astras. This is all like Arjuna's thing, like collecting astras, let's go. Getting ready for the war, let's go. Like this is like totally Arjuna's. And Arjuna went through trauma, right? He could have, is so talented, so skilled, so capable, and he couldn't do a thing. He had to stand there and become a slave. And it's like, this is his chance now to get rid of all that energy and do something about what, and get his vengeance and get his, And Yudhishthira says, no, I need you here. Arjuna listens. Santa Mahatma say, go. Who he listens? Yudhishthira. But please note, they don't disobey Santa Mahatma. He'll go. They got 14 years. Arjuna has 14 years to do tapas. I just need him for a couple of weeks. Then he can go. And last time when Arjuna left, I don't, if y'all remember, for that 1 year when he went into the room for the Kandeva Bro, do y'all remember that? All the brothers were so sad. No, y'all don't remember that? All the brothers were really sad. This time when Arjuna goes, literally all of them cry. Literally Yudhishthira cries, literally Bhim cries, Nakula Sahadev cries. Like, how to be separated from Arjuna. Like, each one's love for Arjuna seems to be so incredibly sweet. But they all know that the war has to be fought. They all know Arjuna has to have these weapons. And so they let him go. But most of all, Arjuna couldn't sit still. Yudhishthira could sit in the forest and listen to satsang, no problem. Arjuna sit in the forest and listen to satsang? Not 14 years. He can sit, he can listen. Not 14 years. That's why Gurudev says in the Bhagavad Gita chapter 1, when Arjuna says, I will go and become a bhikshu, Gurudev said he'll just go and shoot arrows in the forest. He shouldn't go to the forest. Because even when he's in the forest, he can't just sit. He has plan of action. Do tapas, collect astras. Get ready for the war. He's not able to just sit and listen to satsang. Yudhishthira does. Literally. Morning to evening. He's talking to Santa Mahatma, listening to satsang. Yudhishthira very comfortable. Bhim took care of everyone, so kept busy. Nakula and Sahadev also were okay to do satsang. Arjuna goes to the Himalayas. The description given of the Himalayas in the Mahabharata is so beautiful. You can really see the reverence. Also, it's very different to what we see. Like, if you read the description of Mahabharata and then you go to Himalayas, you're not going to see what's written there because it says that the peaks glow. I mean, sunlight shines and it glows, but they had Divya Drishti and they could see the Devatas. Although the one place you still can see it is Mansaroj. Mansaroj, when people go, Mansaroj is a huge lake in the Himalayas, huge. So when you're standing on the shores of Mansaroj, you could think you're standing at the ocean. That's how big it is. In the middle of the Himalayan mountains, there's this incredibly huge lake, huh? Like even that itself is a wonder. And in Mansaroj, you see light. You know, like how you get glowworms? But these are huge, size of people light. And they fly around and you can see them go into the water and come out of the water. But nobody's ever gone near enough to actually see what they are. And because Mansaroj is so huge, you need a boat to go in. I don't think they have. Usually everyone just dips near the shore of Mansaroj. Mansaroj is where Parvati ji and Lord Shiva holiday house. It's also where it is said to believe that the Devatas come and sport. So the lights can be seen by anyone. It's not some few people seeing the light. It's there. Whoever goes can see it. What is it? We don't know. In the description of the Mahabharata, this light is described quite it's more frequent. Like all over the Himalayas, there's these glowing beings. In today's world, I guess Kali Yuga, they only in Mansaraj. We don't know what these glowing beings are. Mhm. Assumably devatas. Because that's the description given of devatas, that they glow. So he finds a spot. Who? Arjuna gets to Himalayas, finds a spot, sits down to do his tapas. So what is tapas? Usually in Bhaviyar class, when we tell them to do tapas, we make them do tree pros. But really, that's not tapas. Tapas is meditation. So stilling the mind at one point. Who did Arjuna do? What was the one point that Arjuna fixed his mind on? Shiva. Why? He needed the Pashupati Astra. But this is also an interesting thing about Arjuna. When we say the word Arjuna, the first thing we'll think of is Krishna, right? Krishna and Arjuna, buddies. Cousins also, brother-in-laws also, they have so many relationships. And nowhere do you see Arjuna meditating on Krishna. Who does Arjuna meditate on? Shiva. Why? Well, Lord of Destruction. He needed destructive weapons. So he's going to meditate on Shiva. Also, this is a very interesting thing. The saying is, familiarity breeds contempt. There's that proverb or saying. Means when you're very familiar with a person, you take them for granted, would be a nicer way of saying it. Contempt seems a bit harsh. Contempt means more like you don't like them, right? Is that what it means? You have a fight. Yeah, then friction and tension happens. Exactly. It means a little bit of you don't like them. Maybe not familiarity breeds contempt, but definitely breeds taking for granted. Yeah. Comfort? No, you just take them for granted. Yeah, you become too comfortable with them. We stop appreciating their value, their greatness, happened even with Arjuna and Krishna. How sad is that? This is why Arjuna is such a unique devotee. If you see devotees like Mirabai, nowhere does Mirabai falter in her love for Krishna and seeing Krishna as God. Yes, Suradas and Krishna, Krishna is God, worshipped, adored. Narad Muni, I'm your servant, bow down. Arjuna, this is the problem with this relationship of buddy. Arjuna, after a while, yeah, Krishna's Krishna. I mean, he loved Krishna, don't get me wrong. Like but that little bit comes in. He's there. And in fact, when you read Mahabharata, it's always Krishna saying how much he loves Arjuna. Like even when they go to the forest, and that when, after consoling Draupadi, Krishna consoles Arjuna because Arjuna is so angry that he wasn't able to do anything at that point in time. And then he said, and we lost everything. We lost all our wealth. And at that point, Krishna tells Arjuna, whatever is mine is also yours. You haven't lost any wealth. All I have is yours. And what is yours is yours. Who's saying? Krishna to Arjuna. And what is Arjuna saying? Yeah, but I'm still so angry. And of course, it was after the game of dice, and you have to allow him to have his emotions, just like we had to allow Draupadi to have her emotions. But you won't hear Arjuna saying such sweet things. You won't hear it. Even earlier, when Krishna was helping Arjuna get Subhadra, it's Krishna telling Arjuna that I adore you, I love you, you will be a perfect husband for Subhadra. Arjuna is like, yeah, you're going to help me, right? Arjuna is not saying you're so amazing, Krishna. He says it, but not really like to be like Krishna really says, Arjuna, I love you so dearly. You're so dear to me. You mean the world to me. This Arjuna, there is love. I'm not making him sound bad. He definitely, there's a lot of love and there's a lot of respect. But what I'm trying to say is, unfortunately, this we can take for granted. We can so easily forget how this person is actually divinity manifest in our life. But that's not there with Shiva. And so when Arjuna does tapas for Shiva, wow, the control and the sincerity and the determination with which he does his tapas is, wow. It's like exceptional. So he's like the role model of a tapasvi. His discipline is phenomenal. His sense of self-control is phenomenal. And so the idea of tapas, I give you a good idea of what tapas means. So you take a seat, sitting however you are. And then don't move. Just don't move. For the whole of the rest of the class, don't move. And you will realize even something as simple as this, don't move a finger, don't move a muscle, don't move your head, don't move your lips, just don't move. Just be completely still. And because I have years of practice of doing this, sometimes I'll tell the Balvihar kids, stay still. And they literally moving their fingers and their toes while I'm saying it. And I'll be like, what are you doing? I said, stay still. Or they'll, fidget and touch their nose, move their hair. Kids not being able to stay still, understandable. But even adults, just don't move. And it's not even been long since I've said that. It's been a minute. And you'll notice, take so much self-control. And the minute you move once, you're no longer able to do it. And so you can't even break it even once, because it has to just remain. And then there's a part of ourselves where it will rebel. And literally a voice in our head is screaming, I want to move. If you haven't reached that point yet, good. It'll come. And at that point, when that screaming happens, just stay still, ignore the voice. This is tapas. The sheer will to make myself do something. Just because I said I would, I'll do it. Not for any other reason. And so literally Arjuna plunks himself down and just focuses on Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Now, to just say the mantra is one thing, but to completely immerse ourselves in the mantra. So when we say it, we have to say it with our vocal cords. So even if you're not actually moving your mouth, the organ of speech is involved in the chanting of the mantra. But we have to say it with our whole mind. So you would have experienced this when you do japa. You can be doing japa and be thinking something else. So half the mind is doing japa and the other half of the mind continues to think whatever it is you are thinking. That's not tapas. Tapas is every little bit of my mind is only saying Om Namah Shivaya. And then when we study biology, we understand that the brain is connected to our nervous system, and our nervous system runs throughout our body. And our nervous system is the thing that makes us feel all the different emotions we feel. And so we have to be chanting with not only our whole mind, but the whole body. So the whole body is saying Om Namah Shivaya. And then, of course, we are body and physiological beings, but when we are mind, then we also emotional beings. And so with every bit of our heart engaged in the chanting, we say Om Namah Shivaya. And to do that continuously, well, so you're functioning at 100%. We hardly function at 100%. Even when we're having a conversation with each other, we're not functioning at 100%. We're functioning at 70, sometimes 60. If the person's really interesting, 90, 95. If you're a little bit infatuated, 90, 95. But otherwise, we're not functioning at 100%. Even when we're working, very rare we're functioning at 100%. Tapas says we're functioning at 100% in terms of complete concentration of body, mind, body, heart, head. Okay, that was 4 minutes. If y'all moved, if this was Balvihar class, out. That was not good tapas. Most of y'all moved that I can see. Something as simple as don't move. What's tapas? To be able to just do it. Whatever excuse comes in your head not to do it, don't listen. Just do it. Wow. It's the listening to the resolve that is tapas more than the action. It's making come true what I say. That is the tapas. Or what I believe in. And so Arjuna meditated for months. Months and months and months and months and months. And Parvati ji looks at Lord Shiva and says, aren't you ashamed of yourself? She was like, huh? What happened? Why should I be ashamed of myself? And Parvati ji says, the whole world calls you Bola Bala, which means easily pleased, extremely compassionate, very giving. And Shiva's wondering, where's she going with this? And then Parvati ji said, he's been meditating for so long. Don't you think you should bless him already? And so Shiva smiles and says, okay. This story very often gets told that mother's heart is softer. If you pray to her, if you honor her, if you adore her, she'll make Father give you what you want. This happens in many households also. So people like this theme. And so Devi Bhaktas really say this. Navratri is starting at the end of this month on the 28th. Devi Bhaktas. Do tapas for Devi. She makes sure we get. So Lord Shiva decides to come down to earth to bless Arjuna. But he's not going to give so easily. It's the Pashupati Astra. It can destroy all of creation. He decides to test Arjuna. So he comes in the form of a hunter. Arjuna has gotten up from his seat of meditation because an asura takes the form of a wild boar and is charging towards Arjuna. Arjuna takes out his arrow, strings his Gandiva bow, and shoots. At the very moment that Arjuna's arrow, or possibly a few moments before Arjuna's arrow shoots the boar, the hunter's arrow shoots the boar. Hunter means Shiva, not a hunter. The hunter comes up to claim the prize, you can say. No, when it's prey. Arjuna is very sweetly saying, you obviously don't know the rules of archery. I had strung my bow, and so the boar belongs to me. He's not fighting, he's not shouting. Although he's kind of sweetly explaining, these are the rules of archery. The hunter totally disregards him and says, don't know what you're talking about. My arrow shot first, the bow belongs to me. Again, Arjuna very politely is trying to explain, you shot him, I also shot him, but the bow was charging towards me. And so I strung my bow and arrow. And so this is my prey, and you need not have gotten involved. Again, Shiva says, just because you have inadequate skills to be able to get to the bow quicker than I did, you're trying to make all these rules about it. The bow is mine, and that's that. And I'm taking it and I'm going. At this point, Arjuna gets angry and says, inadequate skills, I'll show you my skills. And so they start fighting using bow and arrow. And Arjuna can't win, which he's finding very frustrating because he knows he's incredibly talented, he knows he's skillful, and he knows this person has to be highly skilled to be able to put up a fight with Arjuna, let alone not be able to get defeated. Like, even to fight him, you have to be good. And then Arjuna would have usually defeated anyone within maximum 20 minutes. But this is going on for a while and this person is not getting defeated. And then finally he realizes that these arrows are just not having enough effect on him. Because every time he would shoot the arrows, they would touch his body and there'd be nothing, no scar, no dent, no blood, they wouldn't pierce his skin. They would just kind of land on him and fall down. In some versions of the story, it is said that when the arrows touched Lord Shiva's body, they became flowers. But in proper Mahabharata, there's no flowers. It's just literally that they might as well have been flowers because they did no harm to Shiva's body. They're literally like what would it be? Rain? It just rolled off. It just like nothing, like his body is like glistening in the sunlight and no pain even. He's not even feeling pain from the arrow. It's not feeling any harm from So Arjuna thinks this is so frustrating. My arrows are not working on him. What does Arjuna do? True warrior. He takes the bow as a stick and goes and tries to hit Lord Shiva. Like, come on. When we think of all Arjuna's virtues, we need to have consistency in there or determination in there. Like he doesn't give up. The arrows didn't work. I'll try something. I'll just hit you. And then the bow's not hitting him or not making a dent. So literally he's fighting with his hands, like fist fighting with. Arjuna is black and blue with wounds and scars. And because the arrows hit Arjuna. And when Shiva hit, Arjuna's getting hurt. But when Arjuna hits Shiva, nothing, absolutely nothing happens to Lord Shiva. And Arjuna is in so much pain from all the bruises and from all this, the battle that's been going on, that he had done puja earlier in the day. He takes some flowers. This is interesting. In the middle of the fight, he has enough time to string the flowers together to become a garland. You have to love our stories. Like he literally sat there strung the flowers to it. Must have been really fast though, right? Because really, he's in the middle of a fight here. How does he have time to make a garland? He closes his eyes and he prays to Lord Shiva to help him. And then he puts the garland on the shivling. When he turns around, the garland is on the hunter. And he gets it. And this is another really beautiful part of the story. Every story of when devotee meets the Lord, what's the first thing the devotee does? Fall flat on the floor, pranams. Not our Arjuna. No. Arjuna's special. When he sees the garland on the hunter and realizes this is Shiva, Arjuna goes and hugs Shiva. And then he remembers, oh, yeah. And then he bows down. Arjuna really has. This is why Arjuna's, when we say the relationship with the Lord as Sakha, as friendship, that who has that bhav of the Lord is my friend, the first name that will come out is Arjuna. Why? He doesn't bow first. He hugs first. It's really nice. I'm sure God likes that also. I love this story for so many reasons. Firstly, it's got Shiva in it, so enough to love the story. Who was Arjuna fighting with? Shiva. Who did Arjuna pray to help him? Shiva. So much of our life is this. Shiva came as the hunter. Arjuna sees the hunter and starts fighting. Then when he's bruised, hurt, tired, he prays to Shiva, help. Then he realizes that is Shiva. Who's Shiva? The one he's been fighting with. Comes in our lives, and so many people come to our life, right? Who sent them to us? Shiva, Krishna, whoever, divinity. Then what do we do with these people who came into our lives? We fight. Then we get so tired, so bruised, so hurt, and we pray, Bhagwan, please help. Then we surrender. Once we surrender, what will we start to realize? Actually, Bhagwan only sent that person to us so that we could surrender, so that we could become stronger, so that we could forgive, so that we could endure, so that we could be more patient, so that we can be more independent, so that we can be more courageous, so that we may have more vairagya. He only sent. How will we see this? When we turn to him and surrender. When we turn to him and surrender, we see his hand working in and through so many things in our lives. Also, I love this story because Shiva didn't just come, huh? Arjuna did tapas for months and months, more than a year. And then when Shiva comes, Arjuna doesn't recognize. We also, I want to see God, 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 I want to see God. When's he coming? Where's he? Why isn't he coming? Standing right in front of us in so many ways. We don't see it. We don't recognize. And then another thing about this story, which is so true. Arjuna fought and fought and fought until he was bleeding, bruised, tired, exhausted, in so much pain. Then he thinks, please, Shiva, help me. You've been doing months of tapas to Shiva. Why you didn't think of Shiva before? Before you got bruised and battered and bleeding and no. First, we should get beaten up properly, bruised. We should be so tired, so much pain. Then we remember, oh yeah, let me think of Shiva. And where was Shiva? There the whole time. This story is so cool. Shiva was there the whole time. So then Shiva says, I'm very pleased with you. Ask me what it is you want to ask me. And at this point, this is why I love Arjuna. He doesn't say, give me a Patupashi Astra. What was he doing tapas for this whole time? Pashupati Astra. He says, let me see you in your true form. Means the way we want to see Shiva, right? With the snake and the jata and Gangaji flowing and the third eye and the vibhuti and the tiger skin. You came as this hunter and you tricked me, and this is not how I worshipped you all these months. I want to see you as Shiva now. Santi. We are sentimental. We want Bhagwan to look like that only. And so Lord Shiva and Parvati ji both take the form. And then Shiva gives so many blessings. Arjuna is so lucky. He gives one whole big long list of blessings to Arjuna. Don't worry, you will win the war. Don't worry, all the curses will come true. Don't worry, you will never be abandoned. Meaning Krishna will always stand next to you. But Arjuna didn't quite understand that at this point. But he was just so thrilled. He was just so thrilled to see. Actually, the joy, it's literally the description given is he had herpulations. His hair stood on end because he was just so overjoyed with being in Shiva's presence. And tears just kept flowing from his eyes, and his heart was filled with so much love. So, in fact, even though Shiva was giving this whole long list of blessings, Arjuna was so happy he didn't even hear half the blessings. And literally, Arjuna is thinking, after Shiva leaves, what did he say? I didn't hear it. Literally, that's what happens. Arjuna does this often, huh? Even after the whole Mahabharata war is over, he thinks, what did Krishna say again in the Gita? I don't remember. And he goes after the war and asks Krishna, can you tell me again? And Krishna is like me, or I should say, I'm like Krishna. Who can remember what I said? I don't remember what I said. So Krishna is thinking, I think I said this, and then I said this, and then I said. So that doesn't even constitute the Gita when he says it the second time, because it's so this scene where Arjuna's heart is filled with so much joy that he can't even hear. He can't even hear all the blessings being given to him by Lord Shiva. Arjuna is so lucky. He gets Shivji's darshan, he hangs with Krishna. Veda Vyasa comes and visits him. Narad Muni comes and visits him. Arjuna's got quite the life. We'll pause here for today. Let Arjuna enjoy Shiva's darshan. Questions?
What was Arjuna supposed to do when the hunter shot the boar?
What was Arjuna supposed to do when the hunter shot the boar? Was he not supposed to fight?
He did the right thing.
By fighting, he did the right thing?
Just give him the boar and say, okay. Or recognize Shiva. That's what he was supposed to do.
Recognize Shiva would have been a nice thing to do. Why shouldn't he give the boar? Rules? No, the hunter's arrow hit first, I think, or at the same time. Also, it was an asura. It's not like they can cook it.
Oh. Yeah. Then why not?
Huh. There was no utility value of keeping this prey.
So it's pride.
Yeah, Arjuna a little bit always, that pride is, that's one of his flaws. It's not as big a pride as maybe the Ryodhanas and or even Beams, but there is a little bit of pride in Arjuna, as there is in all of us, which is why Arjuna makes such a perfect student of the Gita, because we have all of us have that little bit. Shivji triggered the pride. Yeah, Shivji triggers the pride. That sentence of incompetent skills definitely triggering pride. If Arjuna needed the boar to eat his dinner and then he fought for it, okay. Up in the Himalayas, not much food, you hold on to what you get. But even then he could have offered half. We both need to eat. It's too much here for one person. Let's share. Even then he could have, but it wasn't edible. We know it's an asura. Cannot eat asuras. Please do not eat asuras. Oh, wow, so many questions. Okay. Are the astras also physical weapons? Well, the Gandiva bow was definitely a physical weapon. The astras, I guess, they manifest physically. They depicted in the stories as manifesting. Actually, there's no proof to show that they manifest physically. Usually in the shows and TV programs, you can't not show the astra, so they depict it. But in actual story, mantra is chanted, destruction happens. It's being held by the mind. I don't think it's actually a gross weapon. Because there's an incident in the very end of the Mahabharata where Ashwatthama releases the Brahmastra, Arjuna counters it and also releases the Brahmastra. If the two Brahmasters meet, the entire universe would have been destroyed. And so Naraji appears, freezes time, and tells them both to withdraw the astras. Arjuna's mind is strong enough and he can withdraw it. So now remember, it's coming back to you. So you have to be able to take it without it hurting you. Ashwatthama couldn't control it and it burns him. He doesn't die, but he's burnt and disfigured from it. And so till today, Ashwatthama won't show himself because he's burnt and disfigured.
What does it mean if we can't control?
The astras,
Yeah, but like everything's a symbol or metaphor.
everything is a symbol or a metaphor. No, well, yeah, the power of our mind. Well, the astras, you can liken them to siddhis if you want to use them as symbols. They weren't. They were actual weapons that got used. But siddhis are powers of the mind. The astras were also wielded by the power of the mind. When we don't use our siddhis well, they hurt us. And so there have been people, I mean, not so many of us have siddhis that we know this, but people who do have siddhis, when you use them incorrectly, they physically hurt you. Healers, you'll get diseases, you'll get did Arjuna misuse? Ashwatthama misused. The war was over. Ashwatthama misused it. Arjuna counted Ashwatthama because to protect. To the best of my understanding, the astras were powers of the mind and wielded by the mind. There are physical weapons, of course, that existed. Okay. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukha bhag bhave, asato ma satkamaya, tamaso ma mrityarma. Om Purnamata Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.